Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hi, how are you? How is it going? How have you been? What has been going on? Let me know down in the comments below how you're kicking off the spring. I feel like Notion's block by block conference just totally gave me a spring in my step. And in today's video, we are going to go block by block and recap everything that went down. So without further ado, before we get into it, you already know what I'm gonna say. Smash that subscribe button, smash that like button for the algorithm, and let's get into it. Okay guys, let's dive right into what happened today during block by block. I was obsessively tweeting. I was overly excited for this conference to take place. There were so many features and exciting conversations that happened that frankly gave me life. I don't know if I just haven't really been around content or if I'm missing live events, but going to this conference today, it's now 4 o'clock. The conference ended about an hour ago, and I'm still like, oh my God, my dream is to be a part of Block by Block 2023. That is the mission now. So we're speaking it into the universe, but everyone that was a part of the conversations were just incredible. It was so inspiring to see people's journey with Notion, to see them talk about their own products and what they've developed and how they're turning Notion into really maximizing their own teams as well. So Notion's Block by Block conference started this morning with the opening keynote from Ivan, Olivia, and Michael, who are all the C-suite team at Notion. And during that first conversation, they discussed all of the new features at Notion. So we're gonna go back to those in a second. But after that, then we had the conversation with Ira Glass, who is the creator of This American Life, which is an incredible podcast. And then from there, after the conversation with Ira was over, you had the opportunity to either follow the path throughout the day of conversations dedicated to teams and companies and growth from that perspective, or you could take a more personalized route and learn from creators like Thomas Frank, Marie Poland, Francis, who runs the Notion Bar, and you could kind of take that route. So based on my own personal goals and being a Notion creator myself, I decided that it was most important for me and my creator journey to follow the personalized path today. Now, with caveats, once the replays are out, I am planning on going back and watching all of the team conversation, especially because I do own a company and I have a team, and so I was also really invested in that. But as a creator, that's the route that I took. So if you were following me on Twitter all day, you would have seen all conversation associated with those panels. Okay, so let's break down the opening keynote because there were so many crazy announcements and new features that Notion went through. And once I get access to them, you guys know I'm already gonna do a walkthrough for you and show you how we're incorporating these new features. But the first and most important note, something to note about the growth of Notion in particular, is very specifically, Ivan made a comment that in their first ever Block by Block last year, only 10,000 people attended, which also, that's fucking huge, okay? But this year they had over 30,000 people RSVP to attend. That is how insanely huge Notion has gotten. I mean, think about that growth, that from one calendar year, they 3x timed their attendee list. It's just insane. It's insane. And what I also loved with talking about the community of Notion is this incredible clip that they played of different ambassadors and different Notion consultants talking about the power that Notion's given them to build out their businesses, to build out their creative platforms. And so it was really beautiful to see this conference start with the people. And you don't often see that. You often see a lot of companies who, kind of preach that they are audience driven, that they're people driven, but you only ever see the people directly involved with that company. You rarely hear from actual users on such a personal level. And that is one thing that I personally love about Notion, is that it is a community driver. It is not company first, it is people first. So diving right into the new features in Notion, the first announcement was about teams. Now, this is something that I'm very curious about, especially when you think about the different departments in your organization. But teams in particular will allow you to organize your workspace better, giving each department or team their own dedicated workspace. So when you have multiple departments, for instance, at 99 at my business, we have our design team, we've got our biz ops team, we've got kind of our admin team, if you will, that's not really a part of the C-suite. And so really right now, it's what pages do we share? How do we share? Oh shit, we forgot a page that we have to share. So I'm very excited for this team feature, particularly when it comes to onboarding new team members and then growing out from there. And more so in particular, I'm really excited because I just started reading the Radical Innovations Playbook, and it's all about having different teams testing ideas and working through kind of product development to grow your business. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity for this Teams feature. So they weren't very specific on when this rolls out. Hopefully you guys will have it this spring as they mentioned. Now the second update, which I can finally talk about, is the updated databases. They're calling them Databases 2.0. I have had access to these databases for over a month, and there's still things that are getting rolled out and worked on, which is why, we're not allowed to talk about releases and beta testing. But since it was announced today, I can officially say, y'all, I have tried these new databases. I use them on a daily basis, and they are the most beautiful thing ever created in the entire Notion sphere. I am so excited for y'all to get a hold of these Notion databases. They're so much cleaner and crisper. I love the fact that you can have your own views for yourself versus predetermining filtered views for your team. You guys know on our annual mapping project dashboard, especially in Notion for designers, Notion for agencies, we have filtered views based on upcoming projects, project availability, projects in progress. And so we can take that now a step further personally and create filters based on what projects you yourself are working on versus the entire team. So there's so much opportunity there. And then lastly, the third release is the new feature of synced databases. And y'all, when I tell you this, Notion's endgame. Notion is endgame. That's it. It's over. No other softwares matter. When they released this, when this announcement was happening, I immediately thought about Fellow. And I don't know if I've ever talked about Fellow on my channel, but Fellow is another app that connects with your Google Calendar, allows you to take notes very similarly to how Notion pages are built, where you do the /, different elements show up, and then automatically links back to your calendar and sends it off to everybody who was invited to that meeting. And that's immediately what I thought of as they were rolling out this announcement. And so particularly the example that they used is linking your Google Calendar into a calendar database, adding that relational property to connect meeting notes, and then have it go. And I just, if the fact that one announcement, I can visualize cutting out 2 other softwares is just insane. I'm so excited, especially for a lot of us who have multiple calendars. I have my 99 calendar, then I've got my Sarah Loretta calendar, that's, content and meetings and my Notion consulting. And then I've got, personal stuff, right? Doctor's appointments or vacation. And so having this feature and Marie Polan kind of talked about this in her panel today as well, but the fact that you can combine one single database to highlight, but the fact that now you'll be able to truly build out a hybrid dashboard that has your personal and professional content in there with this new feature of sync databases is just the most beautiful thing. I don't even know how to explain it any further. I'm just so excited. But the downside is they were very specific in saying that this does not release until late 2022. And Notion does does stick pretty closely to when they say they're rolling things out. They're very good at their pipeline timeline, if you will. So I'm hoping we'll see this by the summer. Maybe late means Q4, early Q4, we will see. But yeah, let me know down in the comments which of these new announcements and 3 new features are you most excited for. Okay, so moving right into the final community-driven announcements. I've also known about these too, and I'm very, very excited that y'all finally get to learn about Notion Certified and Notion Champions, okay? So Notion Certified is a now kind of starting point to becoming a certified Notion consultant. So this idea of Notion Certified is that if you know your shit, you know Notion, and you kind of want a stamp of approval that you are a Notion expert, this is your first step in doing so. So if you aren't familiar with the Certified Notion Consultant program, there are only 34, I believe, Notion consultants that are certified around the globe. There are 34 of them. That's it. And when I tell y'all, I took the Notion Certified exam, this one that got announced today, I took it a month ago, and it was hard, okay? So you really got to know your stuff, but if you know your stuff, it's only going to validate that you are a part of this ecosystem that's not going anywhere. So if you are truly just like Notion gung-ho 100%, I definitely recommend applying and taking the exam. Now, with the exam, it's pretty straightforward. You apply and immediately get sent the exam link. It's timed, so okay, you immediately get the exam link, and then once you get that, it is a timed multiple choice test. You cannot use any resources. You can't use Notion. You can't Google. It's very strict on trusting the fact that you know your stuff, and you get your results immediately. So you know automatically if you have passed or failed. And from there, you can then go on to either do the Notion Administrator, you can apply to go through the Certified Notion Consultant program. So that is now the next step. And with that, there is a lot that goes into it, which is why there are only 34 people in the world that have been certified. But I'm really excited you guys finally get a hold of this program, and definitely, if you feel like you are ready, take it. Also, it's a free exam, so even if you don't feel 100% prepared, at least you know what to expect. The only downside is if you do not pass it, you do have to wait a month to retest. So take that with the grain of salt that it is. And lastly, we have Notion Champions. Now, this is something I'm not for sure about. And I feel like a few of us in the ambassador community kind of also feel the same way. We found out about Notion Champions, I believe, on Monday of this week. Maybe it was Friday. I think it was Monday. And it seems very similar to kind of the Notion ambassador space, minus beta testing. So as a Notion champion, it pretty much means that you are the go-to person in your office, on your team, who is championing for Notion to be used. You're the one that's building your templates out. You are, training your team on how to use Notion. Perhaps you're the one that's following Notion on Twitter, so you get all of the updates. That's pretty much what this is it's a community of dedicated Notion users who aren't creators, right? I think that's a great way to kind of differentiate what the champions versus Notion ambassadors are. We were told they're not interchangeable. Ambassadors, definitely. I mean, we had to apply. I waited a year to become a Notion ambassador, and maybe I should do a video on that, about what it's like to be an ambassador. But regardless, if you love Notion, but you're like, I don't want to make templates, I just want my team to love Notion as much as I do, definitely recommend joining the Notion Champions team and joining that community so you can get insight on what's going on in Notion. You can meet other people who are using Notion and, of course, championing this software. So those were the major updates and new releases from the Notion team that they felt confident enough to announce at Block by Block. And I don't know if you're super excited for them. I am. I'm very stoked for these. I'm excited to just get access to them. That's really what this is. I think that is what makes it so hard as a creator, is to hear about new features or see them on a pipeline, and not be able to do anything. I felt like that. Honestly, I felt like that with Circle releasing live streams. I knew about live streams for over a year before anybody got access to them. And that's how I feel about Notion. And I will say, that is one thing I also appreciate about Notion, is that they do not share their pipeline publicly. Even as ambassadors, we don't know until like we get the type form to sign up to test something. And so I really appreciate that for the most part they keep things under wraps. But today I'm just like, okay, I'm at the edge of my seat. Like, give it to me. Come on, let's go. Like, I want to change everything that I'm doing and make things better. I think that it's also really interesting too, especially reading the Radical Innovation Playbook, because that was the theme of this entire conference, and all of the talks that I went to today was start your foundation, start slow. If you're new to Notion, and you'll know I say this all the time, okay? But if you're new to Notion, it can get very overwhelming very quickly. Marie even said it in her session called Taking Notion to the Max. She like continually said, I know my workspace is overwhelming. Yours did not have to look like this. And I preach that consistently too, because if you don't have the right foundation set up, you can't get to these next levels. Like Thomas Frank's creator template, which is mind-blowing, by the way. It's also in beta, so I would go get it before he raises that price, because he's gonna make a fuck ton of money on it, and every dollar is so well deserved. I've been following Thomas Frank since 2011, since College Info Geek, and every single thing he puts out is incredible. So go grab that template. It is so worth the $100, I know. But when you watched his session and him showing how he develops content for all of his platforms between his 3 companies, 2 YouTube channels, 2 blogs, like, it can get very overwhelming very quickly. But when you think about innovation and you think about building out your system, it's really important that you start with that foundation so you can get to innovating, radically innovating everything that you do. And that is what I took most away from today that I am so excited about. It's kind of like today gave you permission to grow your Notion account, to dive in wholeheartedly. I mean, I had a conversation with a potential client the other day who also has ADHD, which I feel like Notion is the perfect software for. But one thing I said to this individual was, you can't piecemeal this. If you're going to go into Notion, we need to go into it, go strong, rip that Band-Aid off, because it's only gonna work if you take the intention to build a system that works for you, and you're not going to Google Drive here, going to Asana here, going to Notion over here. You truly have to build a system that works for you. And that was one thing that Kay talked about with his 10K framework today as well, which I retweeted. I will put it right here so you can see, of how he tasks manage. So his entire task database is built on this 10K framework, where most of his focus needs to be on tasks that go into this 10K idea, and as the day goes on, the dollar amount lessens. So if there's a task under that dollar mark, either that shit needs to be outsourced, or it's something you think about at the end of the day, it's not important, and then you go on your way. So I think it's really, really interesting to see how people are using this software to truly not only maximize their productivity, but maximize their way that their brain works. So if you want to know all of my thoughts from all of the panels, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I obsessively tweeted through everything, and I'm sure people were very annoyed in my timeline, but I think that there were just so many amazing gems that got dropped. So if you want to know all of my thoughts during that, hop over to my Twitter account. I have one single thread from today with everything going on, that my thoughts, my feelings, shared resources, all of that from today you can find right there. I'll link that thread down below. Okay, and lastly, I cannot end this recap without talking about our keynote speaker, Ms. Martha motherfucking Stewart, okay? This woman has been instrumental not only in my life, I feel like she was at the height of her career my entire childhood, and then of course what we shall not name that she went through in 2004, 2005, and now being best friends with my Uncle Snoop. Like, y'all, like Martha Stewart. It was insane. It was so cool to see her at this conference, and I learned so much. So in particular, I thought it was really fascinating because I think the other thing too, and this is all about brand building, but we know Martha Stewart for towels and food and all of these things, yet what we don't know about her is how much of a techie she is and how she bought one of the first ever computers and is like really good friends with people at Microsoft testing things that they have built. And so that was just so insane to watch and listen. And going into South by Southwest next week, this just entire thing has given me so much excitement for smart conversations, for innovative conversations, and I had a blast. So with all of that to be said, I hope if you weren't able to make the conference that you will watch the recaps and enjoy all of the amazing conversations that we all got to watch live today. And of course, leave your thoughts down below on any of your favorite panels. I can't wait to hear what your thoughts were, and I'll see you in our next video.